So welcome everyone. My name is Roger Dickinson. I will be the moderator of the session. There's a story behind why I was asked to be moderator. Last time we had a meeting, I was the troublemaker in the room. So now they've taken me out of that position. And I can see there's enough troublemakers in the room anyway. So that's a very good question. That's a very good question. And part of what happened, someone left after I had said something. So I'm hoping not that doesn't happen today. I'm actually going to behave myself today. But welcome to International Mother Language Day Roundtable, hosted by Ulambo and Letsema Foundation. Thank you very much for your time. Personally, I think it's a very exciting conversation to have, and looks like we're going to have a really robust time. This is a round table. What I understand by a round table is a conversation and even an argument, conflict, disagreements, and hopefully we'll come out friends by the time we have to have lunch in a few hours. But so I will try and moderate that and not also throw my penny in the plate. Just a quick introduction about myself. I'm the CEO of an organization called the Better Africa Foundation, which works on literacy in 23 African countries. I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. So today is International Mother Tongue Day. So let me just name that I am not a mother. Okay? So maybe next year we need to look at that, who hosts, who moderates. And also that we are speaking English, mostly, which is a colonizer's language. And I think we need to name that as we talk about indigenous languages. I hope that will come up in the conversation. It is a medium that facilitates conversation, but let's feel free to speak in any language that you are comfortable in. I would just use, there's a biblical injunction, I think in the book of Corinthians, that says if someone speaks in a tongue that no one else understands, someone else should translate. Yes, so we will use that from a biblical perspective and from a cultural perspective. So today we are going to have, there's a structure to this. In a minute we're going to check in, which means you're going to introduce yourself. So let me just prepare you for how you will introduce yourself. It might be a little different from what you used to. Number one, you're going to tell us obviously your name and your, actually, I wrote it out. In my other life, I'm a facilitator, so I always write stuff. So your role or position in relation to literacy or language. Okay, so I know many of us, in fact, all of us here wear many hats. Okay, so we don't need to know everything about you. That we will discuss over lunch and over drinks. But your role and position with regard to language and literature, just give us a short CV. Okay, I've been in situations where someone gave us their long CV and took up the whole session. So we're gonna go. And then we're gonna create a word list for today. Okay, that Jillian's gonna help us. So you're gonna give us, in your introduction, so start thinking about it, give us a word to add to our vocabulary as a collective. Preferably from your mother tongue or from where you are from. It can be a legitimate word, if there is such a thing, or it can be a slang word, or it can be a word you've just made up. Okay? So then Jillian's going to come and write this out, and we're going to have a vocabulary that we'll share with everyone and we'll start using. Just one word. Good, I see nervous faces here. We'll explain that in a second. Okay? So the check-in will be, each one will get about a minute just to check in. Tell us who you are. Then we have two provocateurs today. Okay? Provocateurs. And I use the word advisedly. So they're not going to present to us, but what I've asked them to do is to provoke us. Okay? And they'll introduce themselves in a second. The first question they're going to answer is, what is the state of mother tongue indigenous languages in South Africa today? Okay, from their perspective. Then what is the consequences or what is the outcomes of that current state? So if the state is amazing and it's great, what are we getting? If it's bad, what are we getting? What are the consequences? Okay. And then also, what are the opportunities for mother tongue indigenous languages in South Africa? So we've asked them to give us something to discuss, and then we are going to have an interactive discussion based on their provocation. Okay. After that, and we're also going to allow people to give their inputs from their own perspective and also to challenge or ask questions to the people who have provoked. Okay, so you don't need to present your organization, as in 15 slides and a pitch deck and all of that. You don't need to do that. But I would really encourage you, tell us about what you do. Tell us this is what we do, and this is with regard to literacy and the topic at hand. Then my own personal issue with discussions like this is that oftentimes we just talk and it's a great discussion and nothing comes of it. Okay, so we're going to try something at the end of the discussion called open space. Okay, it's a facilitation technology. Each of us will get one page to write one idea of how we can promote mother tongue indigenous languages in South Africa, and then we will collate that. And I'm going to put pressure on Robin and Rebs to do something about it. I'll help them do something about it. Okay. So we know we always criticize each other about talk shops, right? And we always, but a good friend of mine who's the General Secretary of the SACC always says, so if we're not talking, what else would we be doing? Okay. Yeah. So the point is that we're going to try and get some practicals that we can actually put forward, okay? And then we'll check out and we'll have a close, and then there's a light lunch afterwards. Good?
That's the best announcement, Roy.
Great. So, Jillian, you are on. Okay. So this is how we're going to do it. So what I'd like us to do, we are South Africans, Africans, whatever, however you identify yourself here. We have multiple language groups here. You're going to give us one word that you think all of us can use, right, as we walk out the door. Okay. So we're going to introduce yourself. I'll model this. Introduce myself, what I do, and I'll give you a word. Okay? So my name is Roger Dickinson. I'm the CEO of A Better Africa Foundation, which is a literacy organization running literacy, remedial literacy, and multilingual programs across the continent. We've been around for 15 years, and yeah, there's a lot to say about that, but I think that's enough for this conversation. I've worked a lot with my friend Bailey here in the NECT, and then Minda Marshall is my partner. We are doing some really exciting things around EdTech. She can talk more about that. So the word I'd like to give you is from my people, which is an interesting concept because I don't consider anyone my people. And it's a greeting that is used by colored people, which is awe. Okay. Now it's interesting. Awe, A-W-E. Okay. So you can use it as a greeting. So if you go to Western Cape, you can say awe. Okay, you can throw in Masakant if you want, my mother's child. Okay, but awe is fine. What's incredible to me is that I've never spoken like that to my children, and yet they all say that word. So there's something in the DNA that's coming. So that's my word to all of you, awe, which is a greeting. Okay, as you see someone, and then also as you leave. Okay, so as you leave, you can just say awe, Bailey, and then we go. Good?
Good.
That's my example. Who'd like to take the next step? Reps.
My name is Ludwika Matare. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Umlambo Foundation, which is an entity that was started by Dr. Phumzile Mlambo when she left office in 2009. In a nutshell, Umlambo works in the education space, specifically, or rather only in public schools in South Africa. And what we try to do is try to contribute to creating a conducive learning environment in our public schools. We all know that our public schools have an array of difficulties and challenges. So Umlambo tries to join other forces, other initiatives that try to create, like I said, a conducive environment for our children in our public schools. I just wanted to share something with you regarding, and the role rather of what we do at Umlambo in terms of literacy, is that we all know that we have a challenge of literacy in the country in terms of the reading competencies of our children, especially at foundation phase. So that's one of the things that the foundation is really invested in. How do we assist, how do we contribute to initiatives that try to reverse this really huge challenge? And of great interest is our mother tongues, how they contribute to our reading competencies. So the us preserving our mother tongue, us using our mother tongue to better our education outcomes is something that we are very, very interested in. But not just that, but our culture, our identity. So it's something that we really promote, and we really want to be part of any initiative that tries to capture and preserve that. But I just wanted to share a story quickly. Sorry, Roger, to take up too much time. When I was young, I can't remember what age I was sitting with my parents, and they're both academics. And Yasser Arafat came on the it was a news item, and he was addressing a huge congregation of people. And I remember he came on stage, and the first thing he said was, "Forgive me," or I apologize, but my English is not very good. And I remember thinking, this Baba, how can he address people, such a great, congregation of people? He's on an international platform, and he has the audacity to say that his English is not very good, so when I expressed kind of my disappointment and almost looking down on him, my parents said something to me that always stayed with me. One day said, "Kimiribuile, the command of the English language is in no term or regard a reflection of somebody's intellect, a reflection of somebody's value, and never ever use it as a bar to judge or to, anybody. It would be a problem if you had a command of the English language, and you didn't speak Setswana very well."
Where are they? We salute them.
So, and they made sure that my first 3 years, I read nothing but Setswana. That's what they did. So that has always stayed with me, and I think from that I learned that there's great value to our languages.
We need your word.
Oh, my word is Pula.
P-U-L-L?
P-U-L-A means rain. So Batswana use the word Pula to greet, but more to really bless. Because we see rain as a blessing from God. So when you say Pula, Chumotu or Tubatu, it's really a form of serious divine blessing.
Thank you. Okay, Rob, we're going to just come down the road there. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, so I'm Robin. I run the Letema Foundation. And what we do is we work within the education space, specifically focusing on supporting and capacitating various organizations already working in the education space, like, for example, the Umlambo Foundation, Teach SA as well, and a number of other organizations that we've worked with. That essentially is our role. We don't work directly in the space of literacy, but we try to help other organizations to do a better job or enhance their impact, support them where we can. Yeah, I'm very boring. Literally is English.
It's fine.
And I'm trying to think what my word of the day would actually be. It would, I think. Now I'm trying to come up.
Do you want a minute?
I want a minute.
Okay. We'll come down the line. We'll come back to you. Rest.
Tobe. It's William. Yeah, I don't want him.
That's the way. Tobe.
Tobe.
Yeah, Tobe. No, but I loved the vendor one Nda.
Nda. Are we using Nda or Tobe? Which one are you giving us?
In Beli is Tobela, then in Venda is Nda.
So that has double A or just a single A?
Double A.
Yeah,
Double A.
NDAA. Nda. Nda Worobi. Nda. Nda. Yeah, matakanye, matakanya, ke mongwe di pharapare wa batswadi, nka se batswadi ke Gromente ya dikolo, school governing bodies. In short, we are called National Association of School Governing Bodies. Our work is to support largely school governing bodies in their work to govern schools. And you know, largely you can't just govern in a space. There must be guidelines, there must be policies, there must be laws, there must be, so that you govern based on the guidelines. So our work is to support the school governing bodies to craft policies, is to support school governing bodies to do their work according to the law. When you look into South African Schools Act, then you would find that it has got a number of areas that school governing bodies should work through. So, but and we are largely in the poorest of the poor, the working class, the rural, the deep rural, and the township. Now, you will understand what apartheid did to those areas, spacious planning of apartheid. Those schools, if you want to see them, if you want to go maybe to Soweto, just look at one school called high school, you will have seen all the schools in Soweto. Look at one primary school, you will have seen all the primary schools in Soweto. So that's how apartheid changed them. So that's where we are working. Now, I want to picture that, and I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying the history that we come from, and then how together, like for instance today, how do we help those destitute? How do we help them as we are here? I think that's a debate. And when you go to the university, the young children, they talk about decolonization of education. What do they mean particularly? Are we not also saying, let's decolonize mother tongue? Because mother tongue is really captured. And it's captured, I think, somewhere in America, somewhere in England, not here. But, and somebody said it, because when we grew, all of us we grew, if you did not able to express yourself in English, you are stupid, you are a moron, or you are an idiot, you know. So if you are clever, even now, that thing still rings in the mind of the parents, in the township, in the rurals, deep rural, the working class, and the poorest of the poor. It still rings that when our parents are taking the children from township to town, is to go and learn English.
So there, you are one of our provocateurs. Don't take your space now.
Okay.
Okay. Because you, yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
but thank you. I'm going to give you that.
Da.
Well, I'm Thabo Ndabeni. I'm the secretary of the June 16, 1976 Foundation. Our interest in the conversation is our very foundation was a revolt against recognition that language can be used as a tool to oppress. That's you had 1976. Our second concern is that the very same products we rebelled against, that's that the enforcement of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction, have for some reason lost their way because their children don't reflect what we stood for. So in advancing the legacy of 76, it is also just to remind the parents that actually what you're doing is really, we are off track. People don't recognize how the criticalness of your mind being controlled elsewhere. On Saturday, I was at a funeral in Kagiso, attending a funeral at the Methodist Church. Some lady was sitting next to me. She gave me a hymn book. It's in Setswana, but I'm aware of the distinction between Setswana and Sesotho. On the outside, the title is written in Setswana, but the hymns inside are a combination of Setswana and Sesotho. It means the person who was editing this thing had no clue about the difference between the two. There is a difference between WA, which is Wa. There is also Wa as OA. There is Ka, which is KH. There is Ka, which is KG. So I just looked at it and I said, our languages are being destroyed, and now it's reflected. It's a hymn book for the Lutheran Church. Somebody must have authorized this publication. The word for the day is Khotso.
Ebelele.
Is it KG?
KHOTSO.
In peace.
Peace.
Usibonga Nhlanhla Nyani. Just a small story, then I close up. I have some boys where I stay. The last time I checked, they were 3. The last one is 27 years this year. So I'm born and bred in Soweto, even school, Soweto. Vista, UJ, Rao, VETS and all those sort of things, something like that. So most of us in Soweto, those that were not, those that are born in Soweto, our relationship with culture is mostly suspect. We do relate, but it's suspect. It wouldn't be like Brachit, who was born in Mawilereng, as an example. So they relate with their cultural lives there and their cultural heritage. But we in Soweto, it's a concrete jungle. We've got a different culture and a different way of doing things. So these cultural things, we find them somewhere on the way, mostly on your own, depending on interest. Because I had uncles, 3 of my uncles could not say a sentence in Zulu because they were from Sophia town. My grandmother came from KZN, speaks Zulu. My uncles speak some Afrikaans of some sort, but they verstaan mekaar. But to cut a long story short, I don't remember teaching my boys my clan names. Right. And then I was very much humbled when they were in high school now. Amongst themselves, they started saying, Unjani Nongalasa, which is my clan name. Keteza. Actually, I felt embarrassed that they should be knowing this from me. Can't they went on Google? They never asked me. They went on Google and then they knew who to get there's Nongalaz, Nondela, and all those sort of things. Those are the clan names. So they started calling themselves, not me, by the clan names. I remain Baba to them. But when they talk, they give. I was so humbled and I was so impressed. And then it's only then that I started to have an interest to tell them not only about the clan names, about where we come from as Zulus, where the different tribes in South Africa come from, the whole issue of the Fakane, the diaspora, and so on and so on. So that's the short story that humbled me one day with my boys as they were calling each other by clan names. Me and my brothers, we don't call each other by clan names. No. Uvelu, Velu, Tabu, Tabu, it's just like that. But we changed subsequent to that. We changed. We now call each other Ketes, Unjan Ketes, and so on. So that's my story, and it humbled me. It relates to what Mathabi was saying. And then my name for today is it's a slang word that we use in Soweto. It's Ta, meaning thanks.
Ta.
Yeah, Ta, meaning thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, my relationship with
Yeah.
where do I come from?
Yes.
Oh, I'm with NASCOP, but I'm a retired pedagogue. So for me to teach, for anyone to teach, language remains central. Thank you.
Thanks. Welcome, everyone. You'll catch on, those who've just come in, you'll catch on the check-in. Yes.
Le kae? Rona, nna ke mphile ke setlogolo sa ditau tja ga Mabitsela. Just married to a Xhosa man, then now ke ipitsa ba Haelane. I represent my organization ke Ezamazwe Education Center for Innovation, which was brought back I think 2017 Heke Balongwana, and because we're privileged enough for we set to a better school. Early center crash where he learned French and English. It was good. Playing around from Kenya, and he would learn different slangs from everyone. And then when we go back home, he will speak Sepedi with the grandparents and the cousins, and we go to the in-laws, he's able to communicate with them as Xhosa. And that's why we learned having quality learning materials makes it easier for people to learn. And that is the disadvantage we had. But back in 2002, when I finished my matric in La Pretoria, and you get to a lecture room, everyone is speaking in English, they're able to raise their hands because they can communicate better. Right now we showed ourselves because we didn't know what to say. First of all, you're thinking, what if I say he and instead of she, and they will laugh, and immediately they will think, oh, she's from Limpopo, therefore we don't expect anything better. I pushed myself to be where I am, which eventually I became an economic analyst for 13 years. And through my experience and interaction with everyone, I realized the difference between me from Limpopo and someone else from Soweto, Tembisa, is because they had access to quality learning material. I did not have a textbook. I was sharing a textbook with 5 friends, depending on where we're sitting. And this was the disadvantage we had. And in 2020, we decided to go back to Limpopo Province, Tzaneen, and to set up a center for innovation that is focused on making quality learning materials available to rural learners. And we said, we targeted ourselves and we don't want to be supporting the schools only. Our target market is the parents, because the schools, they finish at 1:30. What happens to the kids because the parents are working? And that's when we set up our learning center. Will operate from 1 o'clock. So when the grade 1s are from school, they come to us. Then the parents are no Bana safe. But when they get to us, we ask, what did you do at school? So we are trying to teach them how to speak a better language skills. Then, did you read your book? Number 1, you must learn how to speak in Sepedi and read in Sepedi. So every day we have a timetable where every child has a tick box. I've read a book, a Sepedi book, I've read a Tsonga book if they are Tsonga, and I've read an English book. Because by the time they are in grade 4, they are expected to learn everything in English. But they were never taught any English from the foundation phase. So our niche was, we are making sure Horbana, by the time they out of school, they keep on learning and interacting with children from the multiracial that the parents could afford, but because the parents are not there in the afternoon, they need someone to assist with their schoolwork, and that's when we get in and also teach them Sepedi as well, because they are Pedi, they need to know how to communicate. So that's what we did. And so my term for today, I would say, is Ezamazo, means international. So we should embrace our indigenous languages and put them in a map where everyone will identify what a Pedi speaking person speaks like and how a Tonga would communicate. So identifying our niche in the market and dialect in communication.
To say that word again?
Ezamazo.
Ezamazo. Great, thank you. Just before we go on, can I just check something? How many people are from Limpopo here?
Yeah, I wanted to ask the same thing.
Me too.
Oh, I thought everyone...
It sounded like more than
No,
perfect.
the issue is that you, like myself, originally I'm from Limpopo, my friend.
That's what you must ask.
Originally, who's from Limpopo? Not
But
originally.
I'm here because of trade.
Okay,
You understand?
okay.
So when you say who are from Limpopo, you start to
No.
Not now.
not now.
Okay.
I'm from Limpopo.
You say
Yes, Italy, are you not from Mawelare? Or was that just an example?
no, it was just an example.
Okay. What? No, I thought there's a Limpopo mafia. That's
Invaded.
Yes, yes.
Oh, yes.
I'll tell you a story about Limpopo mafia. Great, welcome Limpopo and everyone else.
Dumelang. Le phetse hantle. Ke rata ho qala ka hore ke lebohela boteng ba rona mo. And my wish ke hore ha re tswa mo ha ho bene le action, not talk show as you indicated. So now I'm from NASCOP, basically and wishfully re rata ho thusa batswadi, matitjhere and everyone in schools hore dikolo, because as we are seated here, nobody can say I'm who I am because I come under the rock. Everybody comes from school. So we need to make our schools run properly with everything, teachers and everyone else, so as we can have this good round table where we deliberate issues and implement what we will be discussing. So basically in NASCOP, one of the other things is to assist the government that makes policies and regulations for us to be part of. Bana dikolo is our kids. Let there be no rules without us. So we must be involved in making the rules and regulations, which is still a struggle sometimes. So we are fighting to get there, and we hope as we are having you as partners, this is our cry, this is our plea, you'll also assist in enforcing that. We are very fond of and wishing the mother tongue must go back to our schools, because this is where we saw who we are in 76. So by that eruption of the volcano in 76, a lot of things happened, and like my colleague indicated, everything has been shifted. So the people that we fought with for this mother tongue, they are now ignoring the main thing that brought the democracy that we are in. So we are very happy to be here, and we'll engage with the provocateurs as we go along. And I like to indicate differently to say my word would be supporting Khotso. Reason being, whatever that we'll be doing in peace, it will take us through, it will give us more profit in our endeavors.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
I'm Phineas Mutibi. Igama is Ikhotso.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So, good morning, team. My name is Bailey Nkuna. I'm from the NECT, but here representing the National Reading Coalition, which is a national coordinating structure for reading interventions. I think part of the question is that how do we contribute to literacy? Okay. So, yeah, how we contribute to the development and support of literacy is through the kind of work that we do. So, the NRC, which is the National Reading Coalition, was established after this research that was conducted, which discovered that our learners are not able to read with understanding, not only in English and Afrikaans, but also in mother tongue as well. So the STEM is on the level that we support literacy in schools and in homes, and driving reading with understanding, not only in schools, but also in homes. So that's how we support reading, that's how we contribute. But we're not doing this alone. We work with other structures, like the reading interventions that are available in the country. I'm not going to list them, it's a whole list, including the team, some of the team that are here, like the National School Governing Body, Ubaba Matakanya. We're working with them because he's on the driving seat in terms of the parental component at school level. So we work with them, including other organizations as well. So that's who we are. And the driver of the National Reading Coalition is the National Education Collaboration Trust. But this is a brainchild of both the NECT and the Department of Basic Education. That's how the National Reading Coalition was formed or established in 2019. So the word, which it's a Xitsonga word because I'm also Tsonga, it's called Shihlobo. Shihlobo means fountain.
Please help me with the spelling.
It's X I H H L H L O V O.
Pronounce?
Fountain. Shihlobo.
Shihlobo.
Yeah.
So V is B.
Yeah, Shihlobo.
Beautiful. Thanks, Bailey. Bailey's also being modest, so Bailey and I have worked together for a long time.
Yeah.
He runs the national, the book initiative. So every month, please join the book initiative. So we read a book together as a country.
Yeah.
The President's Book Club.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so Bailey's the one.
I looked at it time that was allocated. Maybe if I can take time to quickly explain about that.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so you see, to show that reading is a problem in the country, normally this is a function of the Minister of Education. So our president, in his State of Nation address in 2019, President Ramaphosa, spearheaded a campaign, national campaign. He invited all South Africans to promote reading so that we can get our 10-year-olds to read with understanding. The request he made is that we need to come together and drive reading such that, all 10-year-olds are able to read with understanding by the year 2030. So part of what he does, he has a book club in the presidency. He calls it the President Reading Circle. So we're extending that to South Africans to also try and inculcate the culture of reading by getting South Africans to establish book clubs in communities around the country. And one of the activities that we are doing is a virtual reading club, because that's one way of reaching out to quite a number of people in the country through the technology that we have. So once a month from 4:30 till 6:30, we discuss a book. So in our previous reading club session, we had Ubab Story, who was part of the panelists. There was a book, it's called Family Affairs by Sunyati. And he was part of the discussion group talking to South Africans about that book. So we have one on Thursday. I forgot the title of the book, I'll just find it. If you like to join, please feel free. I have the link with me, I can share it with you, but you need to have Teams. So download Teams if you don't have one, and join the session and have fun and contribute to South Africans on how you feel about the book. I know you may not have read the book, but it's good to participate in that platform as well. So all that we're trying to do is to inculcate the culture of reading and promote reading across, to South Africans across all ages, not only a specific group of people, but from age 10 up till whatever age that we have represented in the country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning, team. One of the reasons we exist, it was because we wanted to restore mother tongue. Because we wanted to make sure that the young ones that we take to private schools or to Model C schools, when they come back from school, they get the helpers, they go back to grannies who can then not conversate with them through English. So that is one of the reasons we exist. So that we go back to our roots. Because when you negotiate for lobola, you don't negotiate for lobola using English. You make sure that you negotiate because if our ancestors, when you are doing ceremonies in our black culture, you make sure that the clan names are used. So you would not use clan names in English. So that is one of the reasons why we exist as ILIFA. My name is Tobile Makato. I am the secretary of the ILIFA Indigenous Languages. The name that I want to leave us with is Ukuziqaja, meaning pride, because we have pride in what we are doing. We pride ourselves in making sure that our kids pride themselves ngokuba isizwe esimnyama. GQ.
So I had a memory lapse.
Thanks, Stubile. Thank you very much. Great. Me.
Sanibona. Ninjani? Ngiyaphila. Mina nguNosipho wakantombe. Iningi bangibiza uMahlobo. I'm the only Mbogoto Ulasco executive. Ngusase on top. I enjoy this space for now, Mama, before bangithathela. So, ngimember eNaScope. Sithanda ukuthi sihlanganise othisha, abaphathi, abantwana, nabazali in the community and speak one language. Ukuthi if a parent is having an issue, we can all talk about it and resolve. We must strive to protect. We can drive to protect the literacy. We can drive to protect the nation. We can drive to protect everything. So if you you give the house to the homeless through education, then there's nothing as a school. So igama lami lapho umntase. So if I see umama, uzongiphatha njengomntana kubo. If I see Roger, still ngisasomntase. Meaning we sisabantwana bomuntu. We are family.
Mntase.
MNT. Mntase.
There's an N there.
Thank you very much. Ma'am.
Sanibona nonke. Ninjani? Bengidokoza kakhulu namhlanje ekuseni ukuba ngaphakathi kwalo mkhandlu obhekene nezilimi zebele. I'm so happy. I don't know what to say because it has been my wish since I was young that I should have such a city whereby people are talking about their mother tongue languages. I'm Grace Stolle, Dr. Grace Stolle. I'm a Sowetan coming from Orlando West, Pefeni. My both parents were not learned, but what I liked with my father, she was so strict. He didn't want us to speak our mother tongue, not in a correct way. He would even stop and say, no, don't pronounce it like that. It's pronounced it this way. Then he would even give us the meaning. Then from the time when I grew up, then I had a special interest of now loving my mother tongue. As a result, I became a Zulu teacher when I became a teacher, and a very strict teacher who wanted to protect mother tongue like never before. So when I started teaching at Orlando West High School, Pefeni Secondary, we were just towards 1976. When the riot started, I was still a teacher during that time. Because I became aware that mother tongue is gradually fading away. So I started to be even jealous of seeing this language not being recognized. I used to, because during our times the books, they chose to, the students didn't buy books. Books were there. We're using books like Ngulobane Sizwe, using Injula Notia Wisizulu. Those books were good and rich in Zulu. So I used to give them, I used to teach them. I wanted to inculcate the mother tongue. I wanted them to be proud of what they are. I wanted them to speak their Zulu even if they're outside. I wanted them to make use of the dramatic expression even when they play. They just throw the language around and be proud of the language. So fortunately I'm having one of my students here, Toby. The way I was so fond of my language. There's one way that I taught them, like in our mother tongue, when a person is furious, or even when there is a regiment where there was a fight, where maybe find like the Zulus are fighting against each other or whatever. But in Zulu, when you say Maluchu, even if how angry you are, you've got to stop. Maluchu. So it means that I surrender. So it's very interesting that even today when they come across me, they say Maluchu. So now what they used to do, this was a catch when I was angry, because during that time I actually inflicting corporal punishment when I'm busy. When I say Maluchu, then that is our culture. I would stop, because you've got to stop. Angry or what, you've got to stop. So today I'm called Maluchu. You obey, I surrender or whatever. So I'm a member of Ilifa. I'm Grace Stolle. This is my brother. So when we started Ilifa, I came across him at a funeral attended Mr.
Dr. Kukush.
Dr. Kukush's funeral. So when we were right in this middle of this event, then they called upon Mr. Kukush's son. Then he stood up, and then he was supposed to pronounce a Zulu word, and then this word was Ukahlamba. Ukahlamba meaning Drakensberg Mountain. Drakensberg Mountain is called Ukahlamba in Zulu. Then he was struggling, saying Ukalhamba, Ukalhamba, you know.
Dr. Kukush.
Dr. Kukush's son. So that's where I met Mr. Stolle, and we said to him, it's so terrible. Our children can hardly pronounce Zulu words. What are we going to do? What is happening? So now he said to me, no, I've already started ILIFA. So I want you to come and join. That's how I joined ILIFA, because we're discussing about the way our languages are fading away. So I'd like to say to you, I'm so happy and I'm so overwhelmed to tell you that I've been a Zulu lecturer. So many teachers have passed. They are Zulu 3, they are honors, they are doctorate or whatever, through my efforts. If learners fail Zulu as a language, even now I'm a retired teacher, I sit down and teach them at home. Now at the moment I'm busy actually because I feel maybe we are not going to be able to win our fight, because now we should go up, we should go and make sure that we start it from CD, from the lower level. We go to crashes, we go and teach them. They must know even the lullabies in Zulu. They mustn't say twinkle twinkle little star hour, but they must say webuya hobe uphetheni niza niphethinja uya kuyosaphi ngiyokuyosendle ekhaya kunani ngesaba abantu bazongiphuca bangiphucuduba udumuntu omdala wentombazane. Then we start them from Enkulisa, meaning from crèche, and then we must actually inculcate this, teach them. I'm even prepared because I'm a writer. I want to write Zulu lullabies whereby they'll be able to recite. Let us go back to our roots as we are the Masisweni, and let us make sure we restore these languages. Wherever we are acting, Bombo, Kiani, or wherever, let us take pride. Sisigaje as Untaname Ebeshila, Sibe Nekolo, Sibe Nekabo, Logutanda is limited. So I'm going to give you a word. Malutu is one of them, meaning I surrender, but the other one, it's Ilugulu. Masibe Nelugulu, meaning Ilugulugu means I want to explain it in English. Ilugulugu have a drive. We should have an inspiration. We should be inspired, or even inspire our children, or to know this language. It should come from within, intrinsic motivation, whereby we'll fight for our language. By the way, it's war. We need to liberate our children. Handcuffed.
Yeah.
Even parents are not liberated because they are forcing their children to learn to speak English instead of speaking in mother tongue. So, Pambi, with their mother tongues.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Ngingumabutho. Uthumbu wakwaSithola. Ngujobe muzika zinyama zamankankasa. Ingakaze galele umthembu wasekhaya. Umthwalo nsimekanda khona mabhala yobaleka. Bathu banaloya bathu Jojo siyana. Umhlafune umhlafune mini. Bathi nasya isithatho umgodo uzubahlabe mfoka amapitha bahlabe nangamasemakhweni bathu bajini ngokugcina ebafaneni abane ekhaya yiko lokuba bajaphelela amabutho akwaJobe. Ngingomunye wabaqambi balombutho obizwa ngokuthi iLifa. Umnye wabo nami iLifa isifingo ke i-abbreviation ukwenziwe ngoba in Afrikaans is afkorting. iLifa is Indigenous Languages Initiative for Advancement. Let me repeat it. iLifa, Roger, is Indigenous Languages Initiative for Advancement. When we saw the plight of our indigenous languages, we didn't just fold our arms and started crying. We said there's something that can be done. Funding or no funding, like all other NGOs, we're still out there seeking capacitation and partnerships like this one, Yabo Mamorebu, Umlambo Foundation and many others. We are right now in partnership with June 16 Foundation because we're of the same mind, National Reading Coalition, National Governing Bodies Association, because we are aware that it's all systems go and we must make sure that we actually interact with all the people who are talking about this flight. And I hope, Roger, I hope, Rebu, and I would want to throw this to this house even before we get into discussions, that this kind of efforts, can we please check whether can't we make them provincial, this kind of, because then it is a sidelined mother tongue, it is a sidelined indigenous languages, country-wide, not. I'm glad it's starting in Gauteng, where we are in African Union. We're not even, Gauteng is not even a province in AU. Now we have got everybody. So that for me, what would be sensible would be the next stop being Western Cape. Because Gauteng and Western Cape seemingly are having the same kind of profile. And then we can go into it. I request humbly so on behalf of iLifa, as I finish, that please look into involving these role players that are here in all the other provinces. I know the governing bodies have got structures in other provinces, 2016 Foundation have got structures in and all other colleagues of ours and partners of ours. And the fortunate part about iLifa is that in the next few days, next month, we have been fortunate enough that we have been able to even knock at the doors of UNISA, the African Languages Department, headed by Professor Madonsela, and very soon we are signing a memorandum of understanding with Puku African Children's Foundation. When my sister talks about writing a lullaby, those are the people who are going to end up talking to, so that this lullaby is produced, because Isis Zulu City Ligotshwa Semans. If it cannot start at the Early Childhood Development Center, where else will it start? Thank you. Ikam, iLifa. Language, it's her inheritance, iLifa. Language is iLifa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanbonani Komonde, treasurer of iLifa, speaking after Ubarustole, Musugane read up everything. Yeah, he covered everything, but with iLifa we do want to reposition, rescue Imaratam in all. And then my weight today is Malehande. You can't stop here, it needs to move. Malehande.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay, good morning. I'm Linda Marshall. I'm from Lake Torsa. My mother tongue is Afrikaans. I can learn Afrikaans. But language has been my passion for as long as I can remember. And I live in Mokopane, Pipiris, in Limpopo, and we've been partnered with Roger, where we are working in EdTech. I firmly believe that technology is something that can change the future of not only South Africa, not only our languages, but of Africa. And we need to leverage the technology that we have to reach at grassroots level every child, to empower them with their language development. So my focus is reading and cognitive development, and that's the perspective that I'm bringing today to the table. So we work very deep with the science of reading development. So we work with how the eyes move when we read, what do we see, how the eyes and the brain connect, and that's why my word is what it is. I'll give it to you a little bit later. But we use that, and we've compiled online systems to develop reading from grade R right through to universities. Use our systems to not only learn to read, but also then to develop reading. Because it's important, the language is important at the junior time frame of our children. We need to teach them the language, the sounds of a language. And that's why all of these things are important, because if you can hear the sounds right, I'm going into the science now, if you hear the sounds right, you can connect it to what's on the paper. And that's what I believe that's one of our challenges that we have with developing the reading, the literacy levels of our children. And that's why it's important there. But when they grow up, they must continue to develop. My passion, one of the passions that I have is all of those children who's past grade 4. You know, I spoke to the guys at University of Pretoria the other day at the Vice Chancellor's group there, the Merit group. And the guys from one of the faculties, they mentioned that the levels of literacy, the levels of understanding from the students is already low. We all know it's because of COVID. We know that because of the 2 years that children couldn't learn to read, to see the sounds in your mouth when you speak. All of those things had an impact. But there are ways to circumvent it. There are ways to leapfrog our students. There's technology and there's science available that we can use. So, for instance, with Roger, we've partnered with an app to quickly assess what is the current state of literacy. Because if we don't know really what's going on, we can do a lot of things, but we might not address the specific issues at hand. So we believe a shotgun approach is important. It's so important to bring a culture of reading into our nation. It's important to focus on the young kids, to teach them the language so that they will learn to read easier when the time comes for that. But it's also important to help them to excel further, to get to the higher levels of literacy development and cognitive development that is needed. And that is one of the things that we did last year at Litasa, at the Literacy Association. We launched Sepedi. And I want to quickly tell a short story. We launched Sepedi for iBrain Gym, which is one of our platforms that we use to develop reading. And in doing that, I worked with teachers, mostly retired teachers of our area in Mokopane, who helped me to develop this material for Sepedi online for grade 1, 2, and 3 students. And it was a phenomenal experience working with Mariana Mapa and her team to develop this. But the one thing that stood with me when we launched in Mokopane, we launched it there. One of the young girls that came, she said to me in the discussion that we had, she said, "Ma'am, you know, I speak Sepedi, but Sepedi was never important for me because there's nothing in Sepedi." Which is not true, because I work with the guys at Limpopo University. They are developing fantastic stuff in Sepedi. We almost took over Litasa as well, so Limpopo is moving. You must come to Limpopo after Western Cape. But she said to me, but now, I've seen it. It's here, on the internet. My language is here, and I know it's important. And just the pride that she experienced in seeing that, to me, meant incredibly much. Just to see this child so excited about her language being online. So that's what we do. We empower with EdTech our students to develop their reading skills. Very, very glad to be here. My word for today, my word is lekker. Lekker.
Local?
Lekker. Lekker. Why? Let me just explain why lekker is my word. Working with the science of reading, we also work with a lot of neuromodulation and neuroscience of how the brain works. And one of the things that I've realized is, if it's not lekker, you're not going to learn. And that's why I love those words that we have there. Peace and all of those things. There's an environment that's needed for our children to learn. And if we can create that, it's so much easier. So let's make it lekker.
Thanks, Minda. So just a quick announcement. We're going to have a few more people introduced, and we're going to have a break. I read some very high-tech research a long time ago that said that if your butt can't take it, your brain switches off. So about 40 minutes into anyone sitting, their brain starts switching off. So we've been going for 45 minutes. So we're gonna have a quick break. It also give my provocateurs time to get provocative. But we are planning on finishing at 1. So we're gonna have a quick break. I'm gonna ask you when we do break that it'll be quick. Get coffee, do what you need to do, come back, and then we'll get into this. But thank you so much. I'm really enjoying the richness of this introduction. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm part of the Limpopo Mafia, so let's get it on down the road there.
The Macheron with what? The film material was King and the Mole, Tamja, what in the Marona.
Sure.
If you was an honorable on your chap, that over the Muradoana scope. We are very passionate about this, and we have a very serious challenge. Remember, we deal with schools because there are policies that are put in place that are not implemented. And in terms of the languages, but when you check is the pressure level that comes into our schools. Departmental officials from the ministry in terms they're focusing on the results. You will understand, Lori, schools are allowed to have mother tongue, home language, mother tongue teaching, first additional language, second additional language. All of them, they are throwing away second additional language. The reason being, they are now focused on the results. We are having brilliant results. What learners are acquiring, it doesn't matter. The aim of the language board was a learner will be going for home language, first additional language which might be English or Afrikaans, second additional language which could be either a Nguni, another Nguni language, or another language, African language. So that we are having a variety of, when we are trying to bring in the people of the country together, so closing this gap of languages. You are speaking Sotho, you have to learn one of the Nguni language. It's either it's a Zulu, it's a Venda, it's a Shanga. Learners must have to, so that they can understand even the link, because majority of them, they have this interlink. So as an association, we have a mountain to climb, unless everybody comes on board. and make sure that when it comes to languages, there shouldn't be unnecessary pressure that comes to all of teachers, everybody, focusing on the results only. We want math, science, because Sakri is the only language. I was so impressed about the development of all our languages and put them into the internet. Wherein you get into the internet, you type something, you are able to pick up. And the main reason is that we are not having that pride. We are not, you know, we are having that thing which we call self-hate. You understand? We think some other people's things are more better than ours. Some other people's languages are more better than ours. I had an experience one time, I think it was in 1999 or 2003, somewhere there. I went to Santiago, Chile, and I arrived late, past 12, midnight. And I wanted somebody to assist me because people who were supposed to be waiting for me in the airport, they were not there. All of them, they were speaking Spanish. When I tell them English, they say, what nonsense is this? You understand? All of them, they are so proud of their own. They are so proud until I just took my tickets, they were reading there, they said, oh, Hotel Galleria, they just took me to the hotel. At least there was somebody there at the hotel who was assisting us because we were coming from South Africa. We were a team. So I just want to tell you, the other people, they are so proud of their own. We are healing this self-hate. You think speaking your own language, you stoop so low. That's why even our parents whom we are leading, they feel like if a student, a child is doing English as a home language, you understand? It's clever. Was cool. Wow. We think it's cleverness, and it's not. Because you need to have a base. And the department has said, in the foundation phase, everybody must be doing their own home language. But check at the implementation. It's not doing, they're not doing it. You understand? All African speaking children must be doing Afrikaans in the foundation, period. All Sutus, they are doing Sutus in the foundation. That's where you build the language. Then they can start to step in other languages, but they must have their own foundation. I have said already, my name is Mateu Tehu, which means actually a community provider, the comfort of the community, because there is an abundance. I will select my word Mveledziso, which means development.
Please help me with the spelling. Please help me with the spelling.
Mveledziso.
Please help me with the spelling.
MV, oh, she will assist me.
MV?
She will assist me.
MVE, Mvelo.
LO?
LO.
Mvele.
Mvele.
And then D. Instead of O is E.
Okay.
Mveledziso. D. ISO. Mveledziso.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Development.
Development, please. Yes, welcome.
Dumelang, Siyabonga, Uyimori. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to be here and get this opportunity. During my age when I grow, okay, my name is Moses Hudwa, Christopher Sabasi. I can see my distance friends, Mom Chris is tall, Babu Keith is tall, no mom from United States. We used to meet a lot, but we'll catch up during tea time. Yes. When I grew on high school, I asked myself that why indigenous languages, they are when it's vernacular, but when it's mathematics, they are not there. But we say we fought the regime and we dispense it. But when it's come to education, it seems like somewhere still exists. But today I'm happy. We are bringing the conscious alive now. Yes, we have delayed for quite a while, but Now I think it needs to be implemented and executed, because of without morals and values, you can be the smartest or the cleverest, whatever the name you may call it. But if you don't have humanity, your smartest is meaningless. So on that drawing board, ma'am, I would put the name Botu. Humanity, Botu. Because of it lives by morals and values. So that charity begins at home.
Yes.
Is it B-U or B-O?
B-O-T-H-O. Botu. Because of, I can see Koi or Sam, you can bring them in this book. They will wear their attire, they will speak there, they will eat there, they will walk there, and they are proud of that, even too. So I sometimes see young people, especially when it comes to Africans, when our players ask them on a broadcast in English and he responds in African language, they laugh. But European languages like Ronaldo when speak Portuguese, nothing's wrong. When Chinese speak Chinese, nothing's wrong. But we as Africans, indigenous, so when we speak our own language, it's come back. Maybe this guy is not educated or so. So that's where we failed ourselves, because of we are lacking morals and values. But once we bring that alive and opening the soul, so that we can see that we are all equal, not by saying, but by actions and doing things very well. So yes, that word Botu, it says morals and values needs to start at the foundation phase. As my teacher says, that the base in the foundation or in primary school, that's where things start. Yeah. And that's where we must recognize from grade, we mustn't recognize the child from grade 12 when, because of his going to tertiary. The things, every matter, every responsibility of a human, it starts when he or she is in his mother's womb.
Yeah.
So,
thank
the
you.
responsibility starts there.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks. I think we've got a couple more. Yes.
Sanibona. Igama lami uLungisani Trangase. I'm from Soweto, but my origin I'm from KZN. I'm a Zulu, and I'm proud of that. Into engayincoma today ukuthi sizama ukuyisa ulimi lwesintu lwabantu abamnyama. Lokho kwenza ukuthi singabantu abamnyama sibonakala ukuthi singabantu nathi sifana nabo bonke abantu abakhona emhlabeni. And even at school, if they are talking, they are using, most especially they are talking Zulu, then I ask them, why are you talking Zulu? Why are you Xhosa? Why not use your language? Because our language, they are failing, which means we are going to lose our language. If you are trying to implement it, our African language, I think that will be better. And we are going to understand even our roots, where we are coming from. I like the way Ubaba kade esho lapha ethi Ubaba Ramaphosa was delivering a speech, I think 2019, talk about implementation of reading and understanding. At school, we already started. I'm teaching at Lenasia Santa Rosa Primary School. The first language is English. The second language is African. We started to implement only one language because of the number of learners at school. They are talking Zulu, so we implemented Zulu. Why we implemented Zulu? It's because even other races, they are talking Zulu, especially Indians, they are talking Zulu. They are trying to talk Zulu. They like to learn our languages. So if we are not proud of our languages, other races they like to learn our languages. Why are we not proud of our languages? We need to be proud of our languages so that we can see ourselves somewhere in life. If I can check the economy, if you check the economic of the country, different countries, other countries that are using their languages, they are more richer than us because we are not using our languages. They take those people, their people, and delegate them to learn whatever they need to learn in other countries. When they come back, they implement it according to their language, so that it can be easy to be understandable. And even our school, whatever we are doing, our school, I can say our school is very, our school in South Africa, they are very poor in terms of infrastructure. We have books. Those books they are written in English. So it is if we can implement languages, the books that uses different language like Xhosa, Venda, it can be easy to understand it. Thank you.
Thanks.
My weight,
Yes.
I can use my weight, my name as Lungisani. Whatever that is done wrongly must be corrected.
Lungiselenzi lapha Lungisani.
Yeah. Thank you, Lungisani. Yes, sir.
Igama lami Muzi Majo. Ngiyilunga uSihlandla kaSwela ngabafana. Umaqengwana ondaba ezethu uyayaswelana ngomkhona. Umchungu yimeke lo mabona bulawo. Igama engilobeka ilele lithi identity. Why need identity? Ngibeka nje ngendlela yokuthi identity. The biggest problem that we are facing as South Africans, we are not able to identify ourselves. To say who I am, where do I come from. We are even failing to understand our own background. And in that way, I just wonder, what are we planning to these young children who are depending on us for their future? That's the reason why I joined the National Association of School Coordinators, NASCO, because it is where I can be able to express myself in my own language. And the good thing, what I've noticed in most cases, you know, if you are a Sowetan, if you identify yourself as a Sowetan, to me you are saying there is no language that is spoken in Soweto that you don't understand. And that is why even the so-called apartheid, when they created Soweto, they were making sure that we don't come together. Unfortunately, unaware that they are bringing us together. That is why you find Shawelo and Shawelo, you might thought that the people are speaking Sidonga or Sivenda. People are staying all over. And that is an identity which I'm talking about, that we should be able to identify ourselves, who we are, and be proud of what we are. And, you know, sometimes I feel that the way we do things, we are shying away from ourselves. That is why there is this saying in English, people are right, the word is dead. And by saying that, I feel ukuthi ama-parents thina abazali, we are failing abantwana bethu. We are allowed to destroy our mother language. That is why abantwana bethu, they don't speak isiXhosa, they don't speak isiZulu, they don't speak Setsonga. I don't know what language they're speaking. And even ourselves, we allow them. Mina ekhaya, I always say when I wake up in the morning, I always say, someone is standing some out in Kabul. And I don't say, hi my darling, how are you? Let me kiss you, because akunamlungu. Ngifundisa abantwana bami ukuthi this is the language. When you go outside of this gate, you must be able to use, to show them who you are. You will be identifying yourself. Other learners will be saying, oh, this is a Zulu-speaking child. That's all what I'm saying. In other words, the way that I'm saying is Vuga Sizwe.
Thank you. Yeah. Last but not least.
I think the youngest in the room. Okay, maybe let me start with my weight. I think because maybe I'm a rep from NASCO, but I also happen to be in a structure in the country called the South African Youth Council. I think that's the umbrella board of youth organizations in the country. I will start with my weight. My weight is 10. And as I think the last person that will be speaking, the youngest in the room, I'm saying there is hope. Not all is lost. I've heard many speakers who are speaking about the challenge that we are currently confronted with. Us as the young generation, not knowing where we come from, not knowing our language, but now just there is hope. There is hope. There is a lot of things that can still be done. Where we have gone wrong, we can still find the correct path. We can fix. So there is hope. Just yesterday, I was actually sharing on my social media about the Basotho rainmaker, storyteller, and a prophet, Mkhonman Zumba. Mkhonman Zumba was actually a prophet from King Moshoeshoe I, and he actually prophesied a lot of things that happened, the wars that would be happening in Lesotho, and things like that. And you'll then realize that there's a young person again that comes from Naledi. That's actually where 2016 started in Soweto. You'll then realize that we don't even know where we come from. But I'm just saying, if a lot of the older generation coming through to then say, this is our history, this is where we come from, then there's hope that we can still get our things on the track again. There's hope that the coming generation will live in a better society. So yeah, I think from my side that would be my passion.
Thank you. So you're actually not the last person, and you might not even be the youngest person. Because Gillian, can we just thank Gillian for helping us out here first? Go ahead, introduce yourself, and then write your word. Yeah.
So I'm Gillian Ndlovu, Ngumzulu. From Inmuti KZN, but I currently live in the East Rand. So I work as an intern in the Litsima Foundation. I think Robert has already described what the Litsima Foundation does as it relates to literature and language. The word that I would give out for today is kuhle. So I think in a way it goes with what you were saying, right? That there's still hope. But for me, it's kuhle. It is good what we're doing here today, right? Because as a 25-year-old. It's not been long since I've been out of high school, but I'm a person who didn't really regard their home language that much, right? Because I was told, oh no, you have to know English, because English is the way. It makes it easier for you to communicate with other people, and you just kind of put your own home language at the back of everything. So, and it was so unfortunate that even when I was doing grade 12. my lowest mark was actually my home language. And I didn't really see a problem with it because for me it was just like everything else is okay, right? And it's only when I got older that I started saying, okay, there's an issue with my language here. And I went to varsity and met people who were from like deep rural KZN, right? And they were speaking proper Zulu. And for me, I'm like, there are gaps here and there. And initially I didn't see an issue, but over time I was just like, no, there is an issue because this is my language. I should be proud of it, but I also cannot speak it. So even though I'm from deep rural KZN originally, but now where I live, I was discouraged, so to speak, to learn my language and to speak my language. So there was a thing of, no, speak English because English is the thing, right? But I'm very grateful for what is being done here today. It is good, kuhle, and yes, that is my word.
Thank you. So, that took a bit longer than I thought it would. But it was good that everyone's voice was heard. So we are at 10 to 12 now. We need to finish at 1 o'clock. And we've got to have a conversation. There's just too much here that's great. But we don't have to have the whole conversation. Okay, so we'll try and manage how we go. But can I give you a 10-minute break quickly? Just to go outside if you need to use the restrooms quickly. We'll start again at 12. Okay, can I see my two provocateurs quickly? Because you are going to decide what the next hour looks like. But if we can be back here at 12, we can get going with the second part of the conversation. Okay, thanks everyone. It's always a danger letting people out the room. I've always found academics the most difficult people to facilitate. I see there's only a few here. They are listening. Yeah.
Intellectuals here, no academics.
And you know, the easiest people I've ever found to facilitate are mine workers.
Yeah.
You tell them 8 o'clock, they're there at 7. Because their lives depend on punctuality, so they don't mess around with time. So, but thanks everyone. The check-in was really rich. And so what we've agreed with the provocateurs is that we're not going to redo, I think we've all got a sense of the status quo, but just some challenges that we want to put out. And so I've asked tax, and then if they can just give us a quick boost so we can have a conversation. So we'd like to have a conversation, so they're going to get 3 minutes each.
Okay.
Then we're going to have a conversation for about 15-20 minutes, and then we are going to go to some action points, what we can do. Okay. Now I understand that there's a lot here, and we can't sort this thing out in 3 hours. Okay. So let's give ourselves that grace as well, that we're not going to figure out everything. And also give us grace that maybe your point, I always leave workshops feeling like they didn't listen, they didn't really hear me. Okay, I feel your pain. Okay, so Retax, can you go for it from the governing body?
Thank you very much. I'll start like in Comrades, their word is told. How le Movenda, how Nyale Muchangani, how le Muchangani, how Nyale Musul, how Musul, how Nyale Mukos. Quality understand that today or no what it meant because we are talking about mother tongue here. You know, it's true, and you have go high Nagis Musul and it was Zulu. So once our candidate into America. So Mara. Then what? That's the first statement. The second statement is that Rebona Gauteng as a province, Ranyalana. Zimbabwe, now you don't understand or not. Keep waving and all those things. That's why the family said you want to learn now. You know, our dad and all those things, and you don't know now. Gauteng and The second one is Western Cape. So I think this thing is Gauteng. We must have a program here on how do we decolonize Gauteng. That's one. And then secondly, it is Western Cape. I think how do we don't have any other problem with other provinces. I think when you go to Limpopo, Tonga, Venda, that's it. When you go to KZN, they even have their university called KZN. When you came to Eastern Cape, it's just like that. When you go to Northwest, Gujuan. Now Free State, Gujuan. And then it's only Gauteng and Western Cape. So, education is a haholo mo Gauteng le Western Cape. Go to these schools. I think government in a policy incremental introduction of African languages in schools. I'm telling you, by challenge, African schools, they challenge that to say higher teachers and all those things and what. Some of these associations, they challenge that policy. And that policy is good to say, I think somebody said it, to say, most scholars are and all this because, so that policy says, at least introduce one mother tongue, one it's an African language. So one African language must. So it's difficult to teach. So, but again, I think these discussions must bring solutions. For now, do we have books? That mother tongue now. Do we have got books? We can teach maths in those books. We can teach what we can teach physics. The world is moving towards 4IR. Then 4IR, mother tongue, they talk to 4IR. If we don't have, how do we start now at that very lower age? How do we start doing that? And then but you know, education, maybe just quickly education. It's about the psychology. This question here, and maybe lastly is, before I go into the question of psychology, that now what do we do with parents who still believe? Because but they are doing this, what they are doing in schools, because parents still feel Wanage must know English. Wanage has English, what are they feel? Wanage, if Asatbi English is not going to get a job. If you want your child to get job in future, then he must know English. And English then becomes a status. Then you can see now our children, the way they pronounce English is different from us. So it means they are more clever. And even the parents who do not know education, they will start now, if they teach their children, take 5, you could take 5. So then you are teaching them, these children. So now, it's a question that we must deal with. I think when we debate, it was a question that we deal with. How do we colonize parents first and colonize our schools from there? Now, psychologists like this psychologist Krishnaiyer, or quickly can just read this. Krishnaiyer and several psychological, social, and educational experiments proved that learning through the mother tongue is deepest, faster, and more effective. These are people who are dealing with the minds, the brains. Now, he says to us, how Walakasi Zulu is going to be faster, is going to be deep. It's a psychologist, Krishna. And then Omo psychologist places or much of children's future social and intellectual development hinges on the milestone of mother tongue. I just want to show this thing is natural. It's natural, it's scientific. Jim, and then incomplete first language skills often make learning other languages more difficult. If you don't know your Zulu, then learning English is going to be very difficult. That's why Banavaruna a lady parents, how I school, dad, and all those. Even a parent who do not know English, because English is one of the simplest languages. But they are very good in expressing themselves in English. So there's no need to know English. English, no, there's nothing like that. And then Jean, one of the greatest psychologists, Uri Jean Piaget, stress that students' intellectual development in education, setting demands organized culturally to lead their minds towards equilibration, creativity, and knowledge expansion. Cognitive conflict has no place of this. So if once there is this language, how no confusion? But how can even all this teaching? But teacher give back to objectively, they want to project a certain culture, a certain value, certain attitude. Now, these children are confused. When they come back to the township, it is not the same culture, it's not the same value, it's not the same attitude that they got from their school. When they get to the Batlaka, then that's why, and one of the suicide, because again, not confusion of our children, and maybe lastly, without giving there is this one that I love most. It's a Russian and Levi Vygotsky. Adults. This is very important. That's why we want to recruit back to our parents. Adults transmit to children the rich body of culture through their speech. Then the children's own language as learning process comes to help his or her intellectual transformation. Because I don't know. But that is very important. So as National Association of School Government, we are dealing with parents. To say, parents, let's go back, so that we can support our teachers at schools, because it's chaos in schools. Chaos. And I think this is the intention of the neo-colonialism. That's why we are saying, at last, this gathering, these discussions must have programs of how do we decolonize mother tongue. Thanks.
Thank you. So I was about to say that's what I'm getting out of the conversation. How you decolonize, and I know that's a rich word that's been thrown around a lot for the last 5 years. But let's keep that in mind. Restole, can we give you
1994, political freedom was attained. Cultural freedom is still missing. I'm so sorry. I don't know what is I'm saying 1994, political freedom was attained. It was hoped that other freedoms will be attained as we progress. That is why Minister Barbara Creecy recently went to Glasgow to seek environmental freedom. The young people and business people and corporates are craving for economic freedom, and we have always been shortchanged, and therefore cultural freedom is still missing. If yours has been attained, I don't know, but where I'm sitting, there is no cultural freedom. A huge contradiction from the Freedom Charter of 1955. The doors of learning and culture shall be open to all. I quote, is that what we want? Is that what we're satisfied about? You switch on your TV every morning. You've never had Me Kolebo Baratobe in the 29 years. You've never had Nyandu Patem Kosin. They've never had Abomfo Tulabasele Popo Putwayenda Yendo Rovwa. Nothing. Now what majority are we? If out there where it matters most, we're a minority in the airwaves. And what majority therefore are we? Are we on the majority voting time? It can't be. If you are happy, I am not. We, every year, we have your sonars. You have, yesterday we had the Gauteng one, your provincial addresses by premiers and the president. Now, I hear people talking about state capture, but I'm saying to us, as we sit in this room, state capture is on board and it's raging and alive. Now, culture capture is alive. Because culture capture, it is when your culture is in bondage, is chained. And angeke ihlale shangase ingabe chained, because at no stage is your language and my language and her language used in commerce and officialdom. We cannot continue. They must be part of board meetings. Therefore, if you are satisfied that the language must be in the periphery, we are saying remove the language from the periphery and to the center of economic freedom. And by the way, if it is in the center of economic recovery, it means, Rebu, more jobs are going to be created. You imagine there are 9 radio stations. Imagine if we go in and Ukozi, all of them, so closed down. How many jobs will be lost? And those jobs, fortunately or unfortunately, they are jobs for the majority. And therefore poverty continues. Are you saying, is that what we want? We're going to have very soon, in a few days' time, we're going to have a budget speech. And I bet you the first casualty there is culture, language. There will never be any percentage set aside by the Honorable Minister Enoch Godongwana to say this is the figure that is going to be seen, this percentage to be seen to be developing our indigenous languages. A contradiction from 1948 when the Nats were in charge. The first thing the Nats did in 1948 when they got their freedom and they were in charge was investing in their language. That's why Afrikaans today is tight marking English. As you go in anywhere, it's dear, door. It's wag, wait, tight marking. It's official, amdelik, tight marking. It's office, kandur, tight marking. Because they realized that we cannot move with our followers when we cannot understand each other. We've just had the rampage of COVID-19. How sure are we? How sure are we when our Honorable President called us to his confidence in those monthly or quarterly addresses about the stage of how far we've gone in terms of fighting COVID-19? How many of us in Shayanima, how many of us in Pansi, Giti, Mkambati understood? How many of us in Mawilari understood? How many of us in Taukubong? How many of us in the different places, Ramakabama, right in the belly of Northwest, understood. And yet the contradiction is that our president is equally capable to deal with all indigenous languages of this country. Comfortably so, Umfana Wasechawelo. Comfortably so. All 9 of them we can handle. Why are we deprived? Is that what we are seeking to maintain? Is that the kind of status quo that we are seeking to maintain? Where are we? We cannot continue to live in the beautiful species that our leaders come up in the different podiums and talk about the poverty issue and talk about the inequality. The first casualty in terms of inequalities is the language. It doesn't enjoy equality. I've just given you one example on SABC. And that now talking about the fact that we're going together, because at the moment, all of us are 24 minutes special. And what is 24 minutes special? It's the news, which are minus 6 minutes, by the way. That's why I call them 24 minutes special. And already, that 6 minutes goes to a revenue, advertising revenue that they want to get. And yet they've forgotten that they're a public entity. And you and I are still paying to bail them out when the need arises. Therefore, is that what we want to continue? And lastly, if we don't write to the minister now, and this Roger, this beautiful round table has come up at the right time, that we write a letter. We here write a letter to the Department of Finance, to the minister, and say we're expecting a certain percentage out of the budget for this year going towards mother tongue development. In that way, maybe we'll begin to say we matter. At the moment, as the indigenous languages speakers in this country, we do not matter. Is that what you and I want? And lastly, let us ponder on this and think about it. If all of us here agree, there's a need for us to formulate an indigenous languages preservation partnership that could come out of this. And it is that partnership that must write that letter. Even if it's not formalized as yet, we sign it as we do now, and we dispatch it to the Department of Finance, to the Minister's office as early as tomorrow, because some of us are not very keen on being people who entertain theory and leave practicals aside. We seek to be practical people, we seek to be pragmatic, we seek to be active, action-orientated, and the time is now if we want the situation to change. We're not going to send anyone, but send ourselves. Thank you.
Thanks. So first thing I've learned about my two provocateurs, that 3 minutes doesn't mean 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I appreciate that, and I really appreciate it. So we are 25 past now. So I'm not going to allow yet, I'll come back to responses. I actually want to jump straight into my open space, okay? And here's how we're going to do it, and I'll explain why I'm doing that. So, each of you, and I think our provocateurs have given some, but I think we need to honor everyone's ideas here. So each of you get one of these. You've got 5 minutes. I'm only giving you 5 minutes because I know whatever you want is top of mind already. You're going to write on this. So if we had a blank slate, if this was 1994 again, right? And you had a blank slate to decide how we would go forward with promotion, implementation, celebration, teaching of mother tongue. If you had one thing that you could do. Just one thing. Now here's another example I've seen in all my years as a facilitator. No one ever writes one thing. Alright. Please try and write one thing. Okay? Even if it's one sentence or one phrase, but not a paragraph. Okay? So for example, we've got one thing already. Write a letter to the minister.
Investment.
Invest in. That is one thing. Okay. So, you got it?
Yes.
Alright. Can we just pass these around? I'm not going to give you too much explanation. You can either write with your pen, or we have... Okay.
Water.
Blue or red?
Water. Pass one down.
I hope I used to
So we use the big one?
You can use the big one, you can use a small one. But just write one thing. Paper?
Oh, here is it. No.
Okay, let me just then explain Restole you've given me. Give me more than this.
Oh, you use one word.
No, but explain a little bit more. So when you say language equality, what about it? Because this one I like, invest in IAM. Right? That's fine. I liked your letter to the minister better. Because we're looking at very practical stuff. So, let me...
You want me to underwrite?
Yes. You can explain yourself a little better, yeah.
By writing, okay.
So let me just negotiate something here. So we have planned for lunch, but it's been delayed. It will only come at past.
We'll meet it 1:30.
Huh?
We'll meet it at 1:30.
Okay. So that's the negotiation. Shall we go past 1 o'clock?
Yes.
At least we'll have another hour.
No.
So when we are done with
Okay.
I need to go at 1.
Okay. So those who need to leave, please understand that we were wanting to give you lunch.
We'll come for it.
Yeah, you can drive through afterwards. Yeah. But those who have to leave at 1, fine. We'll try and push through till past. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can at least have a conversation about our action steps. And just so you know, you will be explaining to us what you mean. You will not be, you don't have to defend your thesis. Okay. All you have to say is, I believe we need to do this. Okay, let me write mine.
Do we note our names or we just leave it as a...
Your names will be great, yeah, please. Yeah. If we get famous because of your idea, we'd like to acknowledge you. Yes. Okay, 1 more minute. This time I am actually timing it. I've lost trust in you guys.
Yeah, you should give those papers, you know, that just says signs up.
So you're going to keep it, you're going to give us, you're going to show us what you wrote. You've got 30 seconds or less to explain it, but you don't have to defend it. We accept it. We accept it, yes. And we'll see if there's patterns that emerge.
So it's the two of us.
One person, one paper.
Okay, it's fine. Brainstorm.
It's fine, it's fine. Go for it.
So let's.
No, it's fine, please. Don't worry.
No.
Can you submit?
Okay, that's it. The polling station is closed.
Oh, it's right.
Yeah. Polling station. Okay, so this is how we're going to do it. You're just going to show us, explain what you're saying. You can say a little bit about it, but you can just show us what you want, okay? All right. So if I had a blank slate, if I wanted to, so I had a conversation a few years ago with Makosi Koza, and she was saying to me, if you're a Zulu child in KwaZulu-Natal, there's nothing in the street signs that tell you that you belong. All the street signs are English. So you are dehumanizing every child because they look around, they see stop. Okay, they don't see Ema, right? And that it works on, and it's generational. So for me, all signs in all government departments should be in the languages of that area. So if it's the Northern Cape, it should be English, Afrikaans, and Setswana. And Xhosa, right? If it's in the Eastern Cape, you know what I'm saying? So that's my thing.
Okay, I was doing once to conscientize parents the most because they are the ones who happen to be rejecting or the stumbling blocks or coming in between change and also having imbizos, meaning having some workshops around the policies that the government is trying to bring in place, and also what else?
I can add the other one. Because we're sharing, actually we bounce on the same point, so we thought let's share. And then to add on what he's saying, bring all the relevant NGOs together, stakeholders together. Let them speak with one voice instead of that one talk one language, the other one, but you want to achieve the same thing. So create a session where all of them at some point need to be together, speak with one voice to the relevant unit, whether in government or in departments of education.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. I wanted to be more generic, not to leave any other thing. Hence I say, let's start using mother tongue in every and all spheres, whether roads, in government spaces, in offices, speeches, then it will make things easy for whatever and whoever is in that space.
Maybe even add on that, go to an interview in your own language. Can they say, what language do you prefer in an interview? Write your CV in your own language, and that will be
added value.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, this is what Ezamazo has been planning to do, and which we have been in conversations with the Italian embassy to see how best we can make Sepedi an international language that when someone is from Italy and they're thinking of South Africa, Sepedi should be one of those languages that they think instead of Xhosa or Zulu, as Zulu will be associated with the king and Xhosa associated with Baba Mandela. And Sepedi, even though we have a reigning queen, but nobody knows about her. So it's for us to, or sorry, which still, when you are saying you are from Limpopo, nobody even think of which is part of the things that we need to start in conscious people of where we come from, and having more people learning about Sepedi, they will learn about our history and culture.
Can I make a proposal to this team? To say Sepedi and other.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah. Chair, a rider to my presentation. As part of the engagements that have happened here, as an example also, there's an opening of the provincial parliament in KZN, as an example. 98.9% of the people there are Zulu, for the sake of this discussion. And then there's about 4 whites out of 200 legislature members. And the king comes there and speaks in English. You know, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Now, it tells you about who we are in terms, and how we relate with our own languages. Because the king should be speaking in Zulu, and interpretation must only be for those that do not understand. But the inverse holds. I'm just saying. My 2 things here, I wrote mobilization. From the discussions that I've had there, that clearly we need to mobilize. When you mobilize a wide range of people. It could be parents, it could be writers, it could be the Minister for Arts and Culture, it could be the advertisers, whoever that you mobilize. Why mobilize them? The good thing about mobilizing is that if you have mobilized, even those who do not agree with you, or who do not accept what you are saying, must find it difficult to oppose you. That's what mobilization is all about, from where we come from. So we need to mobilize people for various reasons to ensure that this language issue, it becomes a reality. And then why do we mobilize people, Chairperson? So that we bring them into our program of action. We need a program of action. Now, the program of action must include, amongst others, it should be seminars, it should be workshops, it should be engagements. We must also be able to talk to the public media, wherever it is, that we must be able to get a speech, Sagali Sufi, also in Zulu. Not after 3 months. It can't be after 3 months. As he's presenting there, I should also be having my Zulu, what do you call it? My Zulu, yeah, something like that. When Kotongwane, I agree, presents on Thursday, I should also be having my small Tswana Kotongwane, you know, so that I'm able to promote the language. The only person I've had presenting a budget or a speech in an indigenous language from A to Z, actually I was surprised, but extremely impressed, was Trolip. Trolip would speak in the legislature, whatever they call it, in the chambers there in Xhosa. He would address a rally in Nelson Mandela Bay in Xhosa, and I would be in awe and say, wow, this guy, not the Xhosa I speak, the Xhosa that Xhosa speak, you know. So these are my 2 points. Let's mobilize for this program. We must mobilize. And then number 2, we must develop a program of action. Actually, I deliberately put them the other way around, because it must be program of action, and then you mobilize for implementation. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a...
Can I sing a solo for him?
Keep arguing now. Yes.
There is an appreciation that is lacking in terms of the discussions that these issues of language are politically steeped. That the first world and the second world, so-called, the first world survives by the subservience of the second world. So, and this manifests itself, the Francophone countries who describe themselves Francophone, they are under the control of the French. Anglophone under the control of the English. And therefore the fight about mother tongue is not just a fight, it's not a request, it shouldn't be a request to a minister or a request, it must be fought as hard as we fought for political power. So I'm saying therefore that the parents must teach parents that mother tongue equals power. And by power I mean political, economic and cultural, etc. There's this lack of appreciation of the immensity of the power you will hold once you are able to do things the way you want. A former minister, a comrade of mine, was deputy minister of education at some point, went to one of the French-speaking countries, and to his surprise, the education budget is still provided for by the French, even though the country is independent. It's an African country. Textbooks are prescribed by the French embassy, and the textbooks are ordered from France to be brought to an African country. The same thing, I would really wish to find myself or find ourselves in a situation where Inqumbo Iminyanya is read with all the richness of Xhosa culture that is embedded in it, and to appreciate that also by reading, you are rooting whoever is reading that book.
Yeah, quite about to the ideas about this is not a battle. The question of the mother tongue is not a battle, it's a revolution. I think it's a revolution, or it's a struggle. We don't know whether it will be one pillar or it will be one long after we passed on, because this thing was drilled into the minds of us, particularly us black people in particular. Let me be blunt, for 350 years. So that's why I'm saying some of us will not see the day. But it's a struggle that we must start. And I think they have already indicated that there must be a program. I think here we must be having people that are capturing these things, make a clear program that we are going to influence the whole country. I think the students started by saying decolonization. I don't know who's behind that, but at one stage they lose it. Decolonization, at one stage they lose it, and all those things. Now, it's a war, because there is something that is called neo-colonialism. This question of decolonization is, you are not facing the heart, then you are facing the psychological war that is embedded within the neo-colonialism. I think he has talked about the Balkanization of Africa, the Franco what, the Anglo what, and all those, for a purpose that Africa is a feeding place for those guys, the cheap labor. You cannot get any cheap labor all over the world except in Africa. You can't get cheap labor in America, you can't get cheap labor in Australia, you can't get cheap labor anywhere. But if you want cheap labor, go to Africa. So that's why these guys will not let it off. They will never let it off. And once they hold the culture, forget it. So I said, we must continue with the fight along the decolonization of mother tongue by changing the mindset of the parents, mindset of the parents, so that when we take our children from Soweto to Northcliffe, to Rosebank, it is not because of language. It's because there is no space in Soweto. It's because there is no space in Katlehong. Not because they are going to learn better English in Boesbank.
Thank you.
Yes. Mine is very simple, very uncomfortable at times. I just said prioritize economic freedom for cultural revolution. Yeah, we can speak a lot of things. And I actually quoted Karl Marx at the end to say in any society, the dominant ideas are those of the ruling class. This is what he meant, Karl Marx. In Das Kapital, he explains the issue of the economic base versus the superstructure. To say we can speak a lot of nice things and ideas, but once you are not in charge of the economy, you can't change anything. The GS was saying, I actually was part of those in UJ, young people that were leading the Fees Must Fall movement. One of the problems, we didn't speak about our own friends, people then were then started giving money, people were taken to parliament, people were given radio interviews. That's the influence of money. And once you don't deal with the issue of the economy, you'll never change all these things. Parents are taking their children not just because of English. Those that are in that English kapal, they just want Africans in the majority to learn things that when you take them there and they learn English, then that means they're smart and whatsoever. That's what they want us to think. But in reality, that's not what they're doing. They want us to actually absorb their entire ideas. So that's what they're doing because they have money. So if you don't change the issue of the economy, the structure of the economy, that's why when they were saying, if it was 1994, what would I do? I will then speak to the issue of economy more than anything. So actually, I don't even subscribe to the issue of political freedom because I just feel once you don't have freedom, which is the economy, then you don't have anything. You can't even speak about the political or the cultural because all these things are then influenced by the economy. We even speak about how judges are captured in the country because of money. So if you are not in charge of the economy, you will never be in charge of anything. Somebody was making mention to the mines. Everywhere, if you don't speak to the economy, you can't. That's why another about that African country. The French are still in charge of the economy of that country. That's why they're then influencing even the thinking through the books and whatsoever. So now just if we can, that's when we develop a program, but also think along the lines of economy to see how do we change the balance of forces of the economy of the country. Okay. Like the Freedom Charter was saying, let it be in the hands of the people. Only then will people know that we are free. And once they are free, they can then marshal forth with all these ideas to ensure that they regain their culture, tradition, and whatsoever.
Okay. Thank you.
Eyami incane kakhulu. Ngithe nani invest. I'm sorry for my Latin very small. I said invest in the future of our country, which is our children. The reason why I said that, in fact, I was just directing that to all of us who are here. That number one, now that we have achieved democracy, we are all happy, and wherever we go, we talk about democracy. And we are saying to our government to put money in the development of our mother language. And they should not put money alone. They should also make sure that human beings are there to teach our children our mother language. You see what worries me? When the Sowetan boy or girl, if he goes to interview, say for instance in Sandton, is traveling by taxi, he or she would worry herself why she's in the taxi, about the way how is she going to express herself in English, because definitely when she goes for interview, obviously at the moment the only language that is used is English. She would then worry, if I say I'm traveling by taxi, she doesn't know the exact word to use in English. She would worry all the way, thinking about that with ngizofika ngithini konje le nkosi yami because mina I speak, I don't know, it's not Zulu, Sowetan language. And how am I going to express myself now? And the worst part, the people who are forming the panel are Africans. They are brothers and sisters. And when she missed one week and says something else, she becomes a joke of the panel. They would laugh at her. It's something that we should say out of this forum, to say, government, we have achieved democracy. We have seen the good and the bad of democracy. Now, all that, it should not happen in our children. We are saying, let's go back to our roots. Our children, they should learn, or they should be taught in mother language. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wrote something that is very short. I said African language is your roots. Why am I saying that? That is when you can able to identify yourself. And number two, how can you go about it? As I don't know, I can say my father, yes, you said you can go to, you can campaign, doing workshop for, especially for our parents, because our parents, what they are looking for, they are looking for English. They don't care about other languages. Even at home, we are failing. We are teaching our children English instead of our languages. Like for myself at home, what we normally do if she's in bed called to Pasha, I don't know how you call it. We use our languages. I cannot use English while I'm there. I must use my language. So that is why I think the minister should invest in African languages and implement it. Because sometimes you can talk without implementation, which means you are doing nothing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, mine it says indigenous languages must be equal to English and Afrikaans. By saying so, most of the decisions that are making, first is English or later maybe it's second priority is Afrikaans. In China, they are using Chinese. That's why they are somewhere they're the second or third biggest economy in the world, because they are proud of their culture and language and stuff. Like, for instance, Mushashwa, he's got his own code, but for me to quote whatever that he was saying in indigenous language, but today I'm quoting it in English, I can't express myself. But if I can say one of the quotes that Karl Marx says, unquote, I quote, religion, in most of the time, it has become an opium of the poor. But if my son said, okay, what does that mean in indigenous language? I can't express it. But most of the time when somebody says, Shara used to say, and then he quoted it in Sizulu, he must interpret. So you can see that we are degrading ourselves still. Why I can't say it in only Sizulu? And then maybe in the private way, a different reason. What you were saying, brother, I can understand too.
Yeah.
Like Mushasha used to say Basotho, and it's not Basotho. He was saying Basotho. Basotho, it means brown. When he was calling his nation, he said Basotho, like brown nation, come close so that I can address. So colonialists say, oh, Basotho. No, it was saying Basotho, like Africans. So the word Sotho, that's where it comes from.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot. I don't think I will elaborate. I think I'll just read as it is. The introduction of indigenous living channels on the TV, on the waves, for all 13 languages, including the sign language. Remember, the sign language now is an official language. Yes, and all of us here we are struggling very seriously. When somebody come here and we cannot communicate, the person is using sign language, all of us will start to look towards each other. Now I've started those lessons, it's very easy, it's very nice. Sign language is not difficult. So if we can, all of us, we are saying all African languages, also all official languages, all of them, South African, we need to make sure that we are having that learning channel.
Yeah.
Specific learning channels for all of them, given specific time, especially targeting the times where learners are available. Yeah, maybe a weekend, but we know this day learners will be learning, they will be singing all those little rhymes wherein we used to enjoy when we were still young, and then we'll see them on the TV. Our kids will be able to learn on that one. And thanks to the input of bringing the airways and the media, we are nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Like he indicated, you check on all those speeches. I think the African language is the only feature, maybe 1% or 2% in the whole package of the president or the minister. So we need to start to improve maybe percentage to maybe 5%. We can make that demand. Say in your speech, make sure that at least 5% or 10% is it's African language, whether they are mixed or what, but we want Africans to be there. We want Venda to be there. We want Xhosa to be there. All of them together, maybe 5% or 3%.
Great.
It will be better than nothing.
Thanks. Yes, thanks a lot. Great. Yes.
I'm very practical. So I was listening to what everyone is saying and I was so impressed. I already had a new idea. So my idea is we need to invest in technology because that's the way that we can reach many more people very quickly. So I was saying invest in an app to teach all indigenous languages in a fun way so that everyone can choose the language they want to learn. For instance, somebody was saying in their school they decided to have isiZulu as the language add-on. But I'm sure there's other learners that would rather learn Sepedi or Tshivenda or whatever other language. If they have an app, everybody can be in the same classroom but learning the language they want to learn and the teacher facilitates. Okay, so that was the idea I had. And then somebody said, but they want to hear the budget speech in their language. Why not? Have an app. And you were holding your paper like that's when I saw it. You have it here, he can speak and the translation comes at the bottom. Yes. Doesn't matter what language, but that app translates all our languages into whatever other language you need.
Okay.
So my vote is let's go technology and do this for everybody.
Great. Thank you.
I am actually covered by the most because I just said use our language in public space, in the corporate boardrooms, everywhere, and I mustn't be judged when I'm using my language or feel undermined. So that's what I covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just before I read I'm going to read it and then submit. The youth representative spoke about a very critical area of focus on the economic side of things, where we fight for the improving economy, which is fine. But you see, when you do these things, you do them and looking at strategic means. What he said about, what you said now about sign language, what you said now about technology, all those things, we're going to be able to demand them if we've won the fight that we need to be investing in languages. So that when you talk about the minister, it is the Minister of Arts and Culture who must then put it in his budget. But you see, the source is Treasury. So once we win it from Treasury, then we have the kitty and the pest. Then we start with the cultural revolution. Then the economic revolution will fall into place because we've already been seen that we have the capacity to deal with that. So the cultural revolution will result in the economic revolution. But you know why it's going to be successful? It is because nobody who is also a COO, a CFO up there will want to see Isibenda Sabuba suffering, Istwana Sabuba suffering. Whether non-aligned or not aligned, he speaks or he or she speaks the language. Whether in a political grouping or not, speaks the language. Whether in Pirates or Sundowns, speaks the language. So you've got the numbers. Once you have the numbers, then the demands are taken seriously. That's why I'm saying, let's rally efforts that we put up a serious. Now, I'm just looking here, facilitator. It is said the budget speech will be tomorrow, so people will be saying, well, what's the fun? I'm saying we still can write it so that there's enough time to look at our letter and consult with whoever wants to consult, so that we are expecting, now that it's ready, the tomorrow one is ready, but we're already talking about the October one. So that he's got enough 6 months or 7 months to prepare for that one. And we keep pumping the pressure. That's why I'm saying partners to write letter to finance minister, and the agenda, one item, investing in indigenous languages as a state in line with the South African Constitution. And the Constitution, if I can quote, says there should be parity of language, and it's not happening. How do they define the Constitution and we smile? How do we smile? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just to reiterate to what Mr. Tole said, is because we know very well, Muti, when in 1994, when we so-called that we liberated, or else one not yet, they were talking of 11 languages that are there, and they are compulsory, but nothing has happened so far. Even with the budget, the languages are not at all recognized. So I've got a feeling that, in this gathering, we're having parents, and by having parents, because I'm a former principal, we've got everything. Our point of departure will come from the parents. The parents should be the one that will help us to take the initiative. That's why I've written that SGPs should be the ones that should take the initiatives to change the whole thing, because it will be easy for us if we come use our parents to be the ones who will be actually towing the line. And second, I'm a bit worried about these Model C schools. How can we actually break this thing? Because all this comes from the Model C schools. Parents feel that if their children go to Model C schools, they are better off than other children. Then we've got to introduce these indigenous languages right there at the Model C schools, and try to break the whole thing, because this thing is just a stone, a rock that is, a sedimentary rock. We need to make sure that we break the whole thing. From the Model C schools, ECD schools, crèches, we just have to come up with a mechanism that will be able to put us through that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. It's raise a warrior. Why in Shoganjalo? It's because you have this mentality in our culture, or black culture would say, to say, Mele silwe ukuze basizwe. We must fight before they hear us. Mele sivali amagate iminyango ukuze bavule. We must close the gates so that they can open for us. Hey, we need this thing. And ukokwami usually begathanda ukuthi when you're tough times, they create a strong man, and a strong man creates an easy times. and then easy times create weak men. Then weak men, it goes back, it creates a tough time. So esikhathini samanje ezinye izinto ziyangwarisha. It's not ukuthi we crying for the language or literacy or whatever. It also goes with the dress code. It came to a point where I no longer want to wear trousers because trousers are for men. My mother doesn't want a lady that wears trousers. So if you get taught from home, it's easy for you to grasp it as school. If you are taught to go to as a kiki, you must wear like this, it goes a long way. So there was a time I was with these guys, and then I'm promoting with people should embrace their culture. There should be amakiki, there should be amakwala, there should be, you name them. And then this guy says to me, but it's demoralizing women because never harass. How so? It's a question again, it's hanging. Then it goes to SLC is investing on take a girl child to work. What about the boy child? You're creating anger there. When you're raising a boy, you should know how shy teaching starts from home. Then it would be easy, as I've said, like years back when Unokolo Bomb resigned, resigned, people were commenting, who would know, it's time as us closer. As Mangope would greet all the time, so, ama morals, it starts from you, from home, then it gets in life. So now, in closing, it's karma. Karma is not something bad, or all the time it's bad, but it's karma, uguti, we should be heard. Whatever we were crying and grieving about, it's time for maybe the government or whoever to hear us. It's time. Literacy should be instilled in our school.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. There's a lot here. Very rich. Thank you very much. Rebs, I'm going to put you on the spot in a minute to respond in any way that you want to respond. But I know we do have a video that the guys wanted to show. So could we prepare that quickly?
Can I ask a question so that when she raps, she must include the answer?
Okay.
From Reps.
But you can move this so long, guys.
Reps. I am of the opinion that as the coordinators of all the parties and the different players that are around the table would be getting a kind of a summary or whatever communication that came out of this. That's the one thing I'm glad about that. And then out of that, I'm also asking that maybe we begin to refine what has been said, but also isolate and begin to prioritize which one is immediate, which one is next, and which one is later, so that we get into action and in a structured, organized way. Thank you.
Above that, we also need to learn from each other and amongst each other. Just as an example, Chairperson MC, it's only the Zulu language that has got a weekly paper, that has got a weekend paper, that also has a Sunday Times that is written in Zulu. Now, that is assertion from those that are speaking Zulu, I suppose. I don't know how it happened, especially the Sunday Times one. Isolezo has always been there. Invoza Bantu by Pitsliga Iskakaseme has always been there. There are others. But the mere fact, and the other thing is that most of the people, our brothers and sisters from wherever they come from, whether Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania, including Ethiopia and Nigeria, one of the first languages they learn is Zulu. Whether they are in Limpopo or they are in Northwest or they are in Mpumalanga, but they would be more conversant with Zulu. Now, my take is that these are some of the best practices that we have. Lastly, when we, I don't know whether it's copying, when we copy some things, I'm saying this in good way. When we start saying Mushweshwe 1, Mushweshwe 2, Sopusa 1, Sopusa 2, and so on, my take is that is too English. It's not part of us. My understanding is that our kings were known by their clan names. Mankuluma no Chobeka Majana la. Nimbuzu ukuthi ilembe ubani. He knows ubani ilembe. Mankuluma ngombombo shomnyama. He knows who I'm talking to. Mankuluma ngopejane ephuma esiqiwini. He knows which king am I talking to. And now we are anglicizing even our own custodians of culture. Mushweshwe 1, Mushweshwe 2, Sopusa 1, Sopusa 8. Thank you.
Can I just say something in closing? So, just in the interest of time, I just want you to say, and I forgive me for speaking in English so that everybody can understand. It looks like I'm contradicting the real purpose of the meeting. But thank you very much to every single one of you, especially on behalf of our founder, the Umlambo Foundation, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo. Just send me a message to say thank you very much for all of you for making it to discuss this very important matter. So, Restore, in response to you, we will put a summary together that we will share to everybody with all the things that you've mentioned in terms of what are we prioritizing. But I think at the core of everything is how do we action?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
How do we make this purposeful and how do we move it forward practically so that we do not have another talk shop? How do we engage with government in a way that is effective and that is collective?
How do we form the partnership?
How do we form a partnership and what does it look like and what will be the activities moving forward? So again, I think this was a good grouping. I think we've got a very good start. Got very sound minds in the room. And one thing I want to appreciate is that I think the conversation, much as it was emotive, it was very sober. So I think that we will be able to take practical steps, that are not emotional but that are effective. So that is one thing that I've enjoyed from just listening to everybody here. So really, we really thank you from Umlambo, A Better Africa, that is our partner, and Letsema. And the guys, thank you for capturing every minute. We couldn't have done this without you. So thank you very much, and we will be in touch very soon. The letter to the minister, I think it's an action point that's urgent, that needs to be done very, very quickly. So we need to, I don't know how we draft it. Resitole, would you draft?
I'll make myself available.
And then we'll do a round robin where everybody has a look and make input. I would
but I
think from the foundation as well, we could ask Gafan, I think one of the things that would be necessary maybe is to have a meeting with the minister as a collective, just to invite him. I don't know if that's a good idea, but the authorities that are decision makers, because we need to move with speed and we need to be seen to be serious. So that's something that we could arrange if everybody is agreeable. That, I mean, it's not a confrontational meeting, but just to invite him and say, we'd like to have something. Yes, it's true. Have a conversation. So on that note,
there are three ministers here. There's finance, there's arts and culture, who is the custodian, and there's education.
Yes.
I think there are three.
No, as I ask for priorities, let's start with the finance person. All these other things will fall into place. Because when we talk to Mr. Kodongwan, it is Mr. Kodongwan who will then say, and when we pitch it, we talk 10% increase. And we know why we're talking 10%. We know they'll always tell you there's water, there's energy, and but we must end up with the 3% at least. When we've got it, then we can then say to Unyambose, if he's still there, please implement. We've fought a good fight for you because you are the person who implement. We've won the fight.
Great. Thanks,
And
Reps.
Roger, to you, thank you very much for facilitating. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. So
Can I propose? Yeah.
Oh,
when we done here, can we have a nice picture?
The photographer just asked.
Oh, yes, yes. Some of us are never born with ladies next to us.
Okay, so thanks everyone. Just to close off, is the video ready? Are we showing it? Okay, we're going to show a video. And then there is some light lunch. But if we can do the photo before the lunch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Otherwise we'll get distracted.
And thank you to Roger.
Good facilitator.
Yeah.
Good chairman.
Ilizwe lami ngilens Khosana, ngilethele eThemba, amaskral, ngilindebele, uma ngilindebele, ubaba lindebele, ngithathe eMandebeleni, nginabantwana ababili, ekhaya sibane, bantazana ababili, nabasana ababili. Into engithanda ngesindebele siyahlonipha ubuntu sinabo.
Dumelang, lebitso la ka ke Mathapelo Kalaote, ke nyetse ha Kalaote. Originally, ke wa ha Maboda. Ke hlahile ko Vaal, ke na le ausi o i-1 le bo abuti ba i-2, ke Mosotho. Ntho e ke e ratang haholo ka ho ba Mosotho ke hore re na le botho, re na le mofuthu, re lerato. And ho bohlokwa hore re tsebe Sesotho, re bue Sesotho hobane ha o kopana le Masotho a mang o kgona hore le connect, o kgona hore le utlwisaneng, and e aha community, e aha dintho kaofela tse hlokahalang to be able hore re utlwisaneng and re phedisaneng hantle.
Ndiyababhotisa abaphulaphuli ekhaya. Igama lami ndingonwabisa, ndingowakwaBuso, ndisuka eMount Frere. Umama wam uzalwa eMount Frere, kodwa wahamba ngokwakha wayowakha eMthatha. NdingowaseMthatha ke ikhaya lam lesibili. Kodwa ngokokuhlala ke ngoku ndihlala eJoburg. Ndingumntu ongumXhosa, ndiyabuthanda ubuXhosa bam. Into endiyithanda kakhulu ebuXhoseni yindaba yokuba sinobuntu, siyabathanda abantu, and sinobubele. Ndiyayithanda ke loo nto kakhulu ngesiXhosa, singabantu abakwazi ukwamkela bonke abantu besuka kwiintlangothi zonke zobomi. Ndingumama ke onabantwana ababini, uThixo undibusise ngabantwana ababini, umfana nomntana oyintombazana. Ndiyabulela kakhulu.
Igama lami nguNondiso Ndlovu, ngiqhamuka eNquthu North, ephuma ehlala eGauteng. NguZulu, sicacile ngizulu. Into engasho ukuthi ngiyethanda ngolimi lami ukuthi liyinkomo nomfungubani, ukuthi ngingaphi abantu bamuva. Enye into ebalulekile kumina ngolimi lami okanye ngosiko lamaZulu ukuthi lona uthola abantu abaningi abathanda isiko lwabo bayayiqasha ngokuthi isiko labo futhi liyinkomo lokuthi bangubani, ukuthi bayaphi, ukuthi baqhamukaphi. Ngiyabonga.
Dumelang Begai, nna ke nna Sina Mapula Dikgane. Ke Sina Mapula Dikgane, ke nyetswe kwa Dikgane, spansa ka Dumele Bankeng. Ke na le bana ba bararo, ba le ba godisang. Nna leleme la ka ke leleme la Setswana. Ha ke se bue gantsi ka Setswana se se tlhapileng, ke goletse ka mo Rustenburg, itse ha ntse re ya batla ka mo Gauteng ka mo ke ka mo leleme la ka le matswaka ka mo lekana le ka mo. Ke a le rata leleme la ka la Setswana, mare le ntatlhegetse. Nka feel-a gore ga nka wela Rustenburg maybe le ka wela, mara se re change-ile ka go change. Pele ke a leboga.
Avuxeni, vito ra mina hi mina Rirhandzu wa ka Ngoveni, Noma Limpopo, ni bebuleriwile eka Mahonisi ka Malamulele. Mutsonga. Xitsonga I tin'wana ta tindzimi leti vulavuriwaka laha Afrika-Dzonga ta 11. I ririmi leri nga ri mama leri ku nga khale ni kha ni ri vulavula kusukela na ha ri ntsongo ku fika sweswi. Xitsonga eka mina I ririmi leri ndzi tsundzuxaka minkarhi hinkwayo ku ri ni huma kwihi na ku timitsu ta mina ti huma kwihi na tinyungubyisa hi ku va Mutsonga.
Yenda batho ba ka nna ndi shume vhuya Tshitake ndi bva Limpopo so ndo bebelwa kha Lambudza hune ha uri ndi tsini na prison ya Makatshe ndi a ḓihudza ngori Muvenḓa ngori ndo bikiwa na tombo ḽa vhibva nṋe nda sala so Tshivenḓa tshanga ndi ḓihudza ngatsho ngori tshi ri funḓedza zwithu zwinzhi kwa lutshele na uri ri tshilisane na vhathu vhahulwane.
Hello, my name is Tersha van Dijk and I grew up in a small town in the west end of Johannesburg called Davidsonville. As a young child, I grew up speaking English, Afrikaans and Sotho/Tswana. The multitude of languages I spoke is a direct reflection of my diverse heritage. None of those languages I speak very perfectly. In fact, they're all quite imperfect and not savoured Afrikaans or savoured English or Tswana for that matter. But I'm proud of that. I associate languages with the different people in my life that have contributed and raised me to be the person I am today. For example, my neighbours in Davidsonville, where I predominantly grew up, they spoke to me in Afrikaans, whether it was Auntie Ingrid calling me to fetch a bucket of Cook Sisters, or my grandmother, who's Tswana from the northwest, but grew up in the Vaal, where they speak predominantly Sotho, and asking for a plate of pap and malamakodu. All of these things make me diverse and not fitting into one or other box. And I'm proud of this. It has helped me to relate to different people from all walks of life. And I celebrate that heritage that is the multitude of languages.
Igama lami ngitsikela Zengane, indodana yaseMthatha, language engiyithetha isiXhosa, and then ngiyithanda language yami ezathi ngihlanganisa lezi zami.
Good day, my name is Sharika Singh. I'm an associate partner at Lipsemo, and I'd like to share a bit about myself. So I was born in Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal of South Africa. I spent probably around 21 years there, and the rest of my time, around 20 years in Johannesburg. My mother tongue is English. The reasons why I love English is that it allows me to communicate with multiple backgrounds of different people. I think we can travel in different spaces, and English is definitely a major language. Personally, I communicate by literature and poetry in English, and it allows me to express who I am as well as share a bit about my insights into seeing the world. Thank you.
Molweni, igama lam nguLonwabo, ndisuka eQonce, eMpuma Koloni. Ulwimi lam sisiXhosa, endiyithandayo ngesiXhosa ngoba siyakwazi ufumanana njengamaXhosa, sikwazi uthetha sonke. Ndiyabulela.
Dumelang bakgaetso, leina la ka ke Reabetswe Gamogo, ke goletse gona mo Gauteng. Ntho e leng botlhokwa ka go bolela dipuo tsa rona tsa Setswana ke gore re ska loser di-culture tsa rena. Gobane ha re loser di-culture tsa rena ga re itse gore re bo mang. Ga o sheba ko mafatsheng a mangwe go tshwana le bo Germany, bo France, ba bua puo ya bona, ga ba bue fela Sekgowa. Empa rena fela bana ba rona re ba ruta fela go bolela Sekgowa, and ntho ga ya siama ka gobane re loser di-culture tsa rona. Go siamisa kile ka mele re rute bana ba rena dipuo tse rona re tlileng ka tsona. Thank you.
Tabela, le la la mafuthi ya na dia mo ati wa ka akhala ga se khone. Wa go la stedi. Tama ke se tsale bo. Ntaki rata nka se sa ma ke hore le mla ma le tsentsa ile e mo ka ba mthi ba le ba. Ka se ba isa na go na le tse ntse le mo ga dira, go sa no go pa ba 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 le la ma le a go na le a re. Ke rata go le boga hore le tshireletso lenaneo le ne ke a leboga le sa leng gabotse.
Where are the questions?
So I think also have to take it.
Edited.
No, they don't work here.
Yeah.
Most of the people were from Netsema.
Okay.
So there's also access. Yeah, it's quite diverse. But obviously there was even Swatis as well.
Quick one, can we get that shared somewhere?
Yes,
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it was quite good. Yeah, very good. Well done, guys. Thank you. So can we go quickly and take the photograph? Guys, will be led by you where we're going to do it?
Yeah, outside.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah.